Hello, everyone. This is Empress Pamela. Welcome to this edition of Cancer Chronicles, Getting Grounded. I don't know what else. Twin Flame Journey. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about today, but OMG, this is the first spiritual bath I've taken since easily, I want to say November 2021, when I started going through my cancer journey, pre-cancer, health crisis, whatever you want to call it. And it's now April 10th, so let's see. Cancer Chronicles, day 104 since diagnosis. So I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer on December 27th, 2021. It was my son's 25th birthday. We went out to lunch to celebrate. And then 2 hours later, I got the call from my doctor saying you have cancer, endometrial cancer. It's been 90 days since my surgery. So I had a complete hysterectomy. With the hysterectomy and the following, what do they call it? Biopsy report, I guess. It was stage 1A. So really so grateful and thankful that my journey did not include chemotherapy, radiation, and such. They think they got it all with the complete hysterectomy, so everything was taken out. Then I was sewn up. And if you've seen my previous videos, which go ahead and check it out, because I talk about really more than just the cancer, but all the emotions involved and the processing of it. And while it's scary, sad, but it's also hopeful. So I invite you to check out my series. I invite you to check out all my videos, because sometimes my videos overlap. Like the other day I was recording manifesting a winning lottery ticket, and I was talking about crystals almost throughout the whole video. And there's just a lot of overlap. But this video is going to be Cancer Chronicles day 104-90, and I'm also going to be talking about getting grounded. So part of my spiritual journey. So let me talk. This is going to be probably a long video. Oh, let me just tell you, I do have my candle. So part of my ritual when I was taking a bath, and I was taking baths at least 2 times a week throughout my journey, once I figured out that was a way that I could get grounded, purge, do all the necessary meditation and contemplation, everything that needed to be done to heal my soul. But part of my ritual is lighting a candle, lighting incense, which I have incense lit. Inside my bath, I have a mixture of pink Himalayan salt, lavender Epsom salt, bubble bath, vanilla bubble bath, I think it is. Here's my example. Just a little bit of this. But it's nice. So you kind of I cleaned my bath completely before I did this, because I have a little bit of trepidation, because it's been so long, and the doctors really said, before you start going swimming or taking baths, we want you to be really completely healed. So 3 months from surgery. So today is my day. It's April 10th. It's a Sunday. And normally pre-health crisis, part of my Sunday ritual was, get up, have breakfast. Normally my husband would serve me breakfast in bed every Sunday, probably 90% of the time. Watch my CBS Sunday Morning, which I love that show because it really does tap into a lot of what my soul craves, I want to say. It touches on arts, literature, humanities, science. Just, I have a thirst for knowledge, and there's always humanity. And yes, they touch on what the headlines are, but it's not a political show. It's not. I feel like it's pretty objective when it comes to things. So it'll highlight musicians, artists, actors, scientists, normal people. Like Steve Hartman is one of the reporters, and his stories always touch my heart. They are about kindness and love and generosity and humanity, and it's just always feeds my soul to get in touch with that. So Sundays are basically my favorite day because I can get in touch with myself through these types of things. Treat myself, so I get treated to breakfast in bed. I feed my mind and I relax my body, pamper my soul through my spiritual baths. You know, sometimes it's like, I don't know, manicuring or doing meditation or reading or just cooking or something like that. Yesterday I did some cooking, but I'm not generally a big cook. There are some things that I do well. So I made homemade chicken vegetable soup with leftover rotisserie chicken, and I like to add fresh vegetables, and then I threw some frozen in there, and of course the chicken. So this morning I divvied it up, and I'm going to give my mom, who's 81, I'm going to give her a couple of servings to take home. And I'll have that now for quick and easy lunches or food during break time, because I just started a new position. It's work from home. It's a whole new schedule. So my circadian rhythm has to get in tune, but I just finished the first week of training, and the hours are like 3:30 p.m. to midnight. And normally I'm like in bed by 10:30 and asleep by midnight. So I'm going to have to figure that part out to get my body ready for that and get used to it, get on a schedule. So that's happening. And it did conjure up some feelings, emotions from previous jobs that I've had. I'm an empath, so I'm very emotional and affected by other people. And basically I'm processing medical records. And in one of my previous positions, I was training to be disability determination. It was a state job, and everyone said, get a state job, it'll be great, blah, blah, blah. And I went through training. I passed the interviews, passed the training. The training was like intense, almost like going back to college and studying biology. And I really enjoyed it, but it was difficult because I was in my 40s and technology had changed so much when I was in college. And the technology was an additional learning curve for me. But I lasted in that position, I want to say about 7 months. But in that position, I looked at a lot of medical records. And part of the reason why I resigned is because being an empath, one of the job requirements was to speak to these patients, these people, these applicants for disability. And I would have to talk to a person with a mental disorder and post-traumatic stress and everything, and his file wasn't enough to make him eligible, and it just broke my heart. I had to speak to women who had breast cancer, and then they get another diagnosis and it still wasn't enough to pass for approval. And I was always, the way I approached the files was trying to approve people, because people are in pain, and pain management is a thing. And then addiction is a thing when you're trying to manage your pain in your body. And this stuff is not enough to get approved. There were so many devastating cases. It just drained my energy, and I became suicidal because I couldn't help these people who were in pain. I still think of that job, and I hated it. It was so terrible. It was toxic. It was a horrible job. I don't care if the benefits were great. That fucking didn't matter to me. I'm sorry. It was like a sin against humanity, not being able to help people. And yes, there are some who weren't like ethical, but that's not how I approach it. You know, if someone's in pain and they go through the paperwork and the devastation and the swallowing their pride of seeking help, to me, we should try to help them, right? Okay, so that was one job that it brought up memories for me. And the other one was when I worked at this job as a processor, very toxic environment, very competitive environment. And that's where I met my twin. My twin soul is my boss, he was my boss at the time. And he was my Kundalini activator, my soul connection, my catalyst, they call it. He's 13 years younger, and ever since the day that he spoke to me in the interview, actually, there was a connection and something triggered in me, like I knew him before, or he knew me beyond, like he knew me on a deeper level, because the question he asked me was something that normally nobody would know about me, right? I think it was something in the realm of being able to handle stress or pressure, but it came from a much deeper wound that I had. So I guess he did trigger me from the very beginning. And then something about his voice when he talked to me was like a weird thing that activated. And anyway, I worked in that job for, let's say 16 months, right? And that's where my spiritual awakening began. And basically I discovered divine love. It's different than 3D love, what we experience in this earth plane, because I've been with my husband. At that time, I was with him like 25 years. Now we're together, married 30, together 32. Last couple of years have been very difficult. We separated last week for a couple of months. I had to do some spiritual, I forgot what the term is, but basically isolation. I had to be in isolation. That's what Spirit called me to do. When people say, oh, Spirit told me to do this. Well, it's a weird thing, because it's your higher self preparing you for what you need. So for months, I was getting together my belongings, pared down all of my belongings just to the bare minimum, really contemplating my material possessions, what really adds benefit to my life, what do I really like, what do I don't like, you know, kind of like that Marie Kondo, I forgot what it was called, where, you know, she basically helps people get rid of their stuff that they're not using, and minimalism, that kind of thing. Now I've been looking into that for the last couple of years anyway, but I had my bags packed near the front door and all my possessions, things that I valued. I even took my old paints and my art stuff, because I knew that something that my soul desired, but I hadn't touched it in years because I was afraid of the criticism that I would get, especially from my husband, because I wasn't working. And it's like, why would you be doing painting when you could be working? But my soul really wanted to get in touch with my creativity. And I was denying myself for years since I was in high school. And I had a bad experience. I was always interested in art as a little girl. And in high school, I took an art class with Mr. Ray, and he really was supportive. And then the next year, I wanted to take another class, and he said, no, I'm going to give you, a pass, and you can go to the next level. So not drawing and painting 1, but drawing and painting 2. And then that teacher was not supportive, and I had a very bad experience and gave up art pretty much, even though in college, I think my declared major was like undecided, or it was art from the beginning, and then I took one art class and I quit. I've been a quitter my whole life, basically, for things that I really want, for fear of being successful, for fear of failing, all these types of things. Anyway, getting back to my story. So this week I had training. It conjured up some past memories. I thought about my job where I met my spiritual twin catalyst, who was my boss, who was 13 years younger, whom I fell in love with on a deeply divine soul level. How do I know that? Well, that kind of love is much different than what we experience in this world. Like I said, I've been married for a long time, been with my husband for my whole life, half my life at this point. But I fell in love with someone I didn't know, and all the things didn't make sense. He's my boss, that's not right, he's younger than me, whatever. All these things that didn't make sense. How could I fall in love with someone I don't even know? What is this feeling that I'm feeling? Why? This is the thing. This is one of the criteria, I think. Why is it that when this person is around me, I can see this person beyond what they show the outside world? So even though he came off as like a boss, whatever, I knew that he was sensitive soul. He wasn't very happy in his life, kind of miserable, doing the 9 to 5, escaping his life that he didn't really care for by working so much. And it's weird because a lot of the comments that he would make to me were things about details that normally people wouldn't notice about me, but even more strange is it's coming from him. But it wasn't like a blatant compliment or anything, but these were things that he noticed about me that I was like, that's strange. Why would he notice that? Unless he's watching me in some way. And then I was very loyal to him. I stood up for him. I wanted to make him shine by doing the best that I could at my job and setting an example for my peers. And he entrusted me to train the new class, and he asked me to participate in meetings. And I'm like, why is he asking me? I don't get it. But there was never like a conversation of, hey, thank you. Hey, you're great. Hey, I really appreciate you. Hey, would you mind, doing this job, meeting with me because I think you're talented, or I enjoy your support, or whatever. There was never any kind of explanation. I just kind of did what I did. Maybe he thought he didn't need to. But I desired that always, my whole life, because I didn't get it from my parents, my father specifically. I never got the feeling that I was loved and appreciated just for who I was and for the talents that I had. So that's something that I sought from him that I didn't get. But yet the love still grew over time. And it got to the point where I started preparing my exit, like subconsciously. My higher self was like directing me to say, okay, your time is done. Shit's gonna happen and you're gonna have to leave, because if you don't leave, you're gonna make a bigger mess. I got to the point where I was so distracted and so in love that I wanted to, like, my soul was craving to confess my love. And I knew if I did that, that would be like horrendous thing to do in the 3D, right? But also I would break down in tears. So that's one issue. That's one reason why I left. Plus the toxicity of the environment. I was having to take a Valium every morning before I started work. It was really weighing on me. It was draining. There was an energy vampire, one of my coworkers, that really zapped the shit out of me, that I had a falling out with. I had a tower moment with. And I knew I didn't trust her from the beginning, and I just kind of fell into it because I'm an empath. So, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, even though my first instinct or my intuition said stay away from this bitch, right? I kind of fell into it. A narcissist, like I said, an energy vampire she was. I knew it from the beginning. But that's what we do. We fuck with ourselves. We don't listen to that initial feeling. So anyway, also simultaneously while I was working there, I knew that the connection was more than just me seeking approval from another male because I didn't get it from my father. I've done that my whole life, my whole work life. If there's a man in position, normally I'm looking for some kind of validation that I'm loved or appreciated, which I had reached that understanding through my spiritual awakening. It took this many years, right? But now I can verbalize and explain what I was lacking my whole life. So in addition, while, like I said, the first moment that he spoke to me in the interview, it triggered something in me. Whether my chakras started opening, my heart opening, a memory of that he knew me or I knew him, blah, blah, blah. So I'm there for 16 months, and during the course of the 16 months, my divine love, my love, my affection, my desire is growing and growing. But to counteract that or to supplement that, I would think of him every day at night. Say, for instance, you get up during the night and you go to the bathroom. I could see him in his life doing what he was doing. Like, I could see what he was doing. Like, so if it was midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning and he had a young baby at the time, I could see him, like, say the baby woke up and needed a bottle or needed to be rocked in a rocking chair or whatever. I could see him doing that. It was kind of a weird thing. Also, there was what they call telepathy, like conversations that just come out of the blue, and you're not, well, you could be speaking out loud, I guess, if you choose to, if they're catching you at a bad time or you're being annoyed by them, right? You would say it, but it's more like speaking in your mind, but you're having a conversation. And then on a more intimate note, there were times where I felt like I was being, I don't know, sexually, not manipulated, maybe it comes to my mind, sexually manipulated, sexually, my energy was being fucked with, let's just say that. And that was a whole nother thing that I had never experienced in my life. So basically, and whatever. shit like that started happening. So I couldn't handle it anymore. I'm like, it's not worth it. The money, who gives a shit? I can't handle it. I gotta leave, because if I don't, I'm gonna blurt out that I love him and it's gonna create a bigger mess. And I was trying to figure out how can this happen when I'm with my husband for 30 years or 25 years at the time, whatever. So I just quit one day, even though, like I said, I had prepared for months before, like, whatever. And I left, and I didn't say goodbye. That's the thing. I could not face him. It was like a real shit move on my part to not be decent enough to say goodbye. I couldn't. Emotionally, I couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it emotionally. So that was in 2017. And 2017 was a real tough year. Very tough. All part of my spiritual awakening, being unemployed, having dark night of the soul, where, I think my first video I recorded, I was talking about, like, I want to kill myself. What's my point? What's my purpose? I started asking these questions that I didn't know was part of, like, self-exploration and healing. But yeah, 2017 was very difficult. 2018, so I think it was 2018, and I don't know. 2018, I started, like, my weight loss journey, I think. I started keto in January, and by, like, February, I was, like, taking swimming classes, and I really was into adopting a healthier lifestyle and really working on myself. And I got into, like, crystals more intensely, and I was really called to the moon. The full moon would fuck with me. And so I started doing spiritual baths, Reiki healing, and then I took my Reiki 1, and I started really, like, developing my spirituality and that kind of thing. Just exploring self-improvement, spiritual knowledge acquisition or whatever, growth, healing, all that kind of stuff. Exploring healing modalities, everything. I had to go to the beach, like, every month. I was like, honey, I want to go. I got to go see the full moon. It was really a fucking thing. And it was kind of interesting. And then 2019, I want to say it was like the full moon eclipse. It was around December 22nd, 2018 or something, into 2019. And I felt, like, compelled to reach out to him in 2019, in January. Like, all of a sudden, I reached out, and then I was like, oh. And then I'd reach out, like, every month, just once a month, saying, hey, blah, 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 just via text. And then it was June or July, where one day I'm, like, at the Walgreens pharmacy drive-through or something. And all of a sudden I was like, I've got to text him and tell him I love him. This is the first time. I've got to tell him. I just got to get it off my chest because it's driving me nuts. And this is, like, I left the job in 2017 where I was already, like, fully, deeply, madly in love. And then it's 2019, 2 years later or whatever, and I'm, like, still thinking about him every fucking day. Still having telepathic conversations. During that time, I found a video, like, a YouTube was, like, a thing. Like, it wasn't a thing before this awakening, but I found a reader or two that talked about something called the Twin Flame Journey. And prior to that, I was Googling, I wanted to see if there was other people that fell in love with their boss. So I would be like, Google, I fell in love with my boss, looking for people talking about videos or making videos talking about how they fell in love with their boss, if there was something similar. But anyway, as I was doing that, I came across, there were two readers. One is, I think it was called Ascending Soul's Journey. The reader is Lori Ann. And I had a reading around 11/11/2018. And she basically, this was probably my first reading that I had with a tarot reader, psychic, whatever, medium. And she confirmed, she goes, oh, your boss, he's younger than you. You were crystal healers 2 lifetimes ago. Blah, blah, you have daddy issues. He has mommy issues, blah, blah, blah. Your father's a narcissist. I want you to study narcissism. She went on about this, and it blew my fucking mind. And she goes, he's your twin. That's the first time I got validation, right? Then there was this other reader whom I still watch, and I had a couple of readings with her. This is Sylvia Escalante from the Enchanted World of Twin Flame. Came across her videos, and something about when I first watched her, she scared the shit out of me. I'm like, I can't watch her. Something about her. And then I just got over it because it kept coming up in my feed, and I watch her even now because I think we're, like she calls it, we're on the similar wave of twin flames that come into being. There's different waves of twins that come into being anyway. And she's a really good resource. She's been like a spiritual resource for me, guide. I had one reading with her, which I didn't get much out of for some reason. Maybe I was just, it was the energy at the time. And then I had recently, I think last fall, before my cancer diagnosis, I had a quantum session with her, which we were supposed to go to the 5th or 4th dimension, whatever, and whatever messages, but ended up being, I didn't go there. I went to a past life, and I found out that like my husband was my mother in a past life because something he said during the something my mother said during the session, when it was like whatever, something the mother said, my mother during this past life said, is something that my husband says during this lifetime. And it was like, holy shit, he must have been my mother. Because she was like a disciplinarian, control freak, whatever, just like he is a narcissist. And she said that, and I was like, oh my God, that's fucked up. Anyway, that was weird. And there was a thing about horses, and I had gone to another person who was reading Akashic Records or something like that, and she told me one of my past lives, I grew up, my family in South America owned a horse farm, and I fell off a horse, and I refused to get back on, but the lesson was then I got back on, and blah, blah, blah. All these kinds of things about facing your fears and so on. But yeah, horses. And I really, so far in my life, and I'm 56, I think I rode a horse, other than like ponies when I was a kid. As an adult, I might have rode a horse 2 or 3 times. And I had like weird